Good morning, everyone. So it's very nice to be back here. I bring you greetings from Sacramento, and I understood that Georgia gave me a little dig that you don't get Bible stories very much. Well, you know, they don't get ritual very much there, so we kind of balanced ourselves out, and you are going to get some ancient teachings today, so. Anyway, so our vision for this wonderful community is awakening personal transformation, which you're going to have a little bit of today. Well, you already have. And teaching tools for positive change is our mission. And this year, our theme for the whole year is Your Joyous Life. So I'm wishing that for you, and every single lesson is about how we can all experience more joy and more happiness in our life. So the theme for October is about mindfulness. So the way we personalize that theme is mind your mind. And the goals, we have two goals that mean the same thing pretty much as mind your mind. The two goals are pay attention and increase awareness. So that's all the same because our mind is the creator of our experience, or it's responsible for using the creative law to create our experience in life. We can't not be doing that. So whatever is the contents of your mind is outpictured in how you perceive life to be. So what you think and feel about you and your relationship to life, your relationship to that one song, I love that, the one universe, the one song, that's pretty much how life shows up for you. I would be willing to bet that there's 75 different experiences of life in this room right this very minute, and that increases as we go out into the world and see more people. So what we do in mindfulness and paying attention to the workings of our mind is that we try on other realities, or we examine our subconscious beliefs, or we reflect on how it could be that life got to be the way it is. What could a person believe that would have life appear the way it is for me and you? You ask yourself that, I ask myself that. And then would it work better if we shifted our beliefs? Because beliefs are nothing really holy. Beliefs are just what your life is based on. It's how your life shows up. So today, we're looking at the kind of thought that cannot be understood logically, but that kind of, that thing that it's kind of like a fizzy in the water, like an Alka-Seltzer, you know, go psst. It's like, it does that in your mind. It's called a Koan, and so the title of the talk today is Jesus, Buddha, and a Metaphysical Koan. So I love this image, and if you would imagine that the altar just goes like this, right over to this beautiful, beautiful altar that Carine created for us today. And we have on the altar also a painting done by Franz Viana and of Ernest Holmes and the creative concept, the teaching symbol. And so I did a blessing for Franz's studio yesterday, so this is like a little continuation. We're going to bless her painting of Ernest Holmes because, was that Foundations that you started that?
No,
Prac 1. It was one of her projects in her studies. She began that in Prac 1 and it's been years, she said, meditating on this image that is part of her spiritual practice now. So, so the title here, Jesus, Buddha, and a Metaphysical Koan. So a koan is from the Zen Buddhist tradition. We have two wonderful Buddhas on the altar there. Do we still have two? One you can see and one you can't see, I think. That's how that works. So it demands great concentration for us to kind of get what a koan means. And one of the most famous, I'm sure you've heard, is what is the sound of one hand clapping? So when you think about that, you know, it just takes you places. So the koan for today was actually spoken by Jesus. and it has a perfect metaphysical meaning, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. It's from the book of Thomas. Now, the book of Thomas didn't make it into the Bible, so I don't know whether you count this as a Bible story. I do. But the gospel, the gospel according to Thomas, was unearthed in the manuscripts around the Dead Sea that were secreted away in some of the caves around the Red Sea, and it's a part of what is now called the Nag Hammadi Library. So as the other Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Gospel of Thomas is about the life of Jesus. But instead of giving a biography of the life and teachings of Jesus, this is a book about the sayings of Jesus. And some of the sayings we recognize from the New Testament, of the books that made it into the Bible, but some you don't. Like this one, I love this one. This is saying number 2 in the book of Thomas. Jesus said, here we go. So, okay. The technology is going to fix itself, and just focus on me. And I'll recite this for you. Jesus said, "He who seeks, let him not cease seeking until he finds. And when he finds, he will be troubled. And when he is troubled, he will be amazed, and he will reign over the all." So because I see some of these little lines, I'm going to read it again. Jesus said, "He who seeks, let him not cease from seeking until he finds. And when he finds, he will be troubled. And when he is troubled, he will be amazed, and he will reign over the all." So this is what we're going to talk about all morning today. So this is actually, although it feels like it's unintelligible, it is a statement about spiritual growth. Well, we have it back. Excellent. So you can read it. "He who seeks, let him not cease from seeking until he finds. And when he finds, he will be troubled. And when he is troubled, he will be amazed, and he will reign over the all." This is about spiritual growth. We're all on a trajectory of spiritual growth. We're a soul on a journey. And this journey is to greater and greater awareness, to greater and greater opening to that one song. And so there's no stopping and there's no turning back. What we can do is we can alter the pace of our spiritual growth. We can enhance it by doing spiritual practice, or we can slow it down by looking at lies like victimhood, like poverty, like anger. We can, if we participate over and over and over and over again in those experiences that make us feel separate from our good, we can slow down our growth. We can't stop it because we're all going home. That's where we're going. We're all ultimately going to that one song. I love that. And so we can enhance our spiritual trajectory by participating in spiritual practice. And some of the spiritual practices that we recommend and teach in all the classes are prayer, meditation, the reading of sacred scripture, service, giving, forgiving, and those kinds of things. So when we seek, as this quote says, we are actually leaning into the next greater stage of wisdom, oneness, and connection. That's what we're doing. We're not just seeking, like, I wonder what's here, I wonder what's next, I wonder what's out there. We are saying, in my spiritual practice, I am leaning into God. I am leaning into greater wisdom. I am seeking wisdom. I am seeking oneness. I am seeking connection. I am seeking peace. I am seeking beauty. So that's all my eyes ever see. That is the seeking part. And when we seek, we are taken. We are taken on our trajectory of spiritual growth. And it's kind of like Lloyd. Lloyd was so fabulous at the prac class. We took him to the prac class, and the curriculum went out the window. Lloyd just expounded for 3 hours. It was great. And he talked about seducing spirit. He talked, Lloyd, for those of you that are new or newish, Lloyd Tupper is the founder of our community, and he was here for about 5 weeks. He's back safe and sound in Cape Cod now, and he'll be back for Christmas. So, nonetheless, he talked about seducing spirit. And when we seduce spirit, we are on our spiritual path, doing spiritual practice, saying, use me. Just like the song said, use me, oh God. I stand for you, and here I'll abide till you show me all that I must do. And when we seek like that, we are taken along. We are shown. God more than meets us. And we are taken to this next level of awareness, which, when we get there, it's like, oh my God, where did I land? That's the troubled part. All of a sudden, in spiritual growth, we take this leap and we find ourselves in an unfamiliar place with new rules. You know, it's like, all this that I used to do worked, and now it doesn't work anymore. So here's an example from Henry David Thoreau of that experience when it's pleasant. It's not always pleasant at first. That's the troubled part. If one advances confidently in the direction of their dream, endeavoring to live the life they are imagining, one passes an invisible boundary. All sorts of things begin to occur that never otherwise would have occurred. One begins to meet with a success unexpected in common hours. So what that means is, endeavoring to live the life they are imagining, that's the seeking part. I am seeking after this great life of beauty that I am imagining. I'm seeking it. One passes an invisible boundary. That's when God takes us and moves us. All sorts of things begin to occur that never otherwise would have occurred. That means we are operating by new laws, and in this case are very supportive, and we recognize it. One begins to meet with a success unexpected in common hours. Things happen to us that just seem to like, oh, this lands in our lap, and it's so great, and we did nothing to get it there. So the actual map for this, I'm going to show you now, the map of spiritual growth. And so this is how we teach it here. This kingdoms of consciousness, I'm going to go through this with you. This is very, very interesting in our denomination because a couple of years back on the ministers' listserv, they asked, where did this come from? And actually, there were like 3 sources of this all at the same time. One came from Michael Beckwith, one came from Lloyd Strom in our community, and then there was another one from, I think, David Spangler from, yeah, he's related to Fintorn. So that all 3 of these, it's like this emerged from the subconscious realm into the realm of consciousness on earth at the same time from all these people. So it's really powerful. So each of these kingdoms has its own consciousness and its own rules. So we start, oopsie, wrong button, go back. Go forward. Okay, there we go. Here's what I want. All right, kingdom number 1, everything happens to me, and I feel kind of like the victim most of the time. The consciousness, the highest consciousness of this realm is, I hope things turn out. That's the highest consciousness. And the laws seem to revolve around luck. That things show up good or show up not so good, but it's the luck of the draw. And what we can hope for is that it turns out okay. That's the best. Then we go through this portal here. We go to the next kingdom, and everything is done by me. So this is the kingdom. The word is control, but it's actually how to use the creative law effectively. And in this kingdom, the consciousness that we get to is, it's done unto you as you believe. And the laws have to do, or the work of that realm is the control of our beliefs. So we do a lot of spiritual practice. We do affirmations, we do spiritual mind treatment, we do visualizing, we do vision boards, we sing songs, we do ecstatic dance, we make a list of our gratitudes, we make a list of the people we need to forgive, and we work on those lists. It's a big, big kingdom of mastery. And you can imagine when you first get into this kingdom, it's like, oh my God, maybe it's not all luck. Maybe I have a say in my life. That's when you're troubled. Oh, what do I do now? If I have a say in my life, how do I do that? And so the spiritual practice is step by step by step by step going through this kingdom so that when you are at the end of this kingdom, you have mastery. You speak your word and it is so. But then you are ushered into through me, which the laws all of a sudden change again. And it's about trust and surrender. It's not about how many times you say your affirmation. The consciousness is that we get to is, it is not me, but the Father within who does the work. And so we have all of this experience with doing affirmations and spiritual mind treatment, and all of a sudden we're asked to surrender. And this is the kingdom of compassion, trust, generosity, working for mutual good, honesty, joy, peace, beauty, and nurturing. But you can imagine when you step into it at first, it's like, my affirmations don't work anymore? What does this mean? And so that's the troubled part. But after the troubled part, in each traverse, if we keep up with our spiritual practice, we gain mastery of that kingdom, and we're amazed. We're amazed because life is so much better than the previous kingdom. Now we don't, and then the last one, which I've had inklings of, as most of us have, but it is the kingdom of absolute oneness, where I and the Father are one. And the work is absolutely to see with the eyes of God. There's no judgment. We look around. We only see blessing. All the stuff that goes on in the world, it's of no consequence whatsoever because everybody is one with God and it's all play blood and nothing happens bad to anybody ultimately. So you can see that that's a whole other set of rules. So as we get hints of how this works with little steps in each kingdom. For example, I'm watching my daughter now who has changed jobs in New York City. She was working for one nice restaurant and then she decided that she wanted to change jobs, and all of a sudden the rules are changed. All of a sudden she's looking around at people. Are they judging me? Am I doing okay? What do I have to, she's bartending now in New York City, so that's a big, big deal. She's got a lot of pressure on her, blah, blah, blah. And I see her troubled, but I've seen her troubled before, and I know she's headed for mastery because I know that she does her inner and outer work. So, a lot of us right now are moving between kingdoms 2 and 3. If you are not there, well, let me tell you that we're not all in one thing all the time. We're a little bit in everything, but we're mostly in something. And so a lot of us, we're kind of like an amoeba, kind of mushing through these kingdoms. Most of us are squeezing through that doorway between 2 and 3 right now. And if you're not there, if you're still between 1 and 2, please, it's only where you are. It's fine. It's fine. Fine, fine, fine. So let's look at what happens when we go from Kingdom 2 to Kingdom 3. Because we have to do this over and over and over and over again. When we have a situation in life, do we control it or do we surrender to it? Over and over and over and over, we have to look at, do we do one or do the other? And if we lean into surrender and trust more and more, we will get into Kingdom 3 easier. So this is what happens when we move from Kingdom 2 to Kingdom 3. We move from concentration to ease and clarity. So we don't have to work so hard at envisioning what we want, because it happens. So for example, in my life, there's two areas of my life that are very distinct and different. I don't subscribe, by the way, to the saying, the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. It doesn't make sense to me from my experience. I know a lot of people believe that, but for example, in the work here in the community, my work seems to be a lot in Kingdom 3 right now. Blessed be. There is a lot of harmony. There is a lot of the schedule kind of taking care of itself, despite us sending emails back and forth and back and forth and back and forth about when are we going to schedule the retreat and how many workshops do we have, blah, blah, blah. We had a speaker cancel for November, which is perfect because we have enough in November. I had nothing to do with that. It just happened. It just happened, and it's perfect. So that's an example of things working out in Kingdom 3. Kingdom 2, over the months, I've been losing weight. I'm smaller. But it's not at the trust level yet. It is friggin' hard work. And I am doing everything I know physically and metaphysically to keep that going. And I'm clearly in Kingdom 2 there. So, just sharing. We also move from controlling to trusting. So, I had a situation this week where a dear friend of mine died. And I watched myself try to control this. I was texting him, and I was texting him, are you eating? Are you exercising? Are you staying in touch with your family? And it turns out he wasn't doing any of those things. He was busy dying. And that's when control is really just, God says, you don't have a thing to do with this, girl. You have nothing to do with this. You got to trust me that this is the right thing to happen right now. So mostly about that transition called death, I am in Kingdom 3. I know that people go precisely and exactly. They come in and go out exactly on time. And so that was an example of me literally being picked up from control and plunked into trust. And that's what happens sometimes. We work and God works through us. Lastly, or not lastly, but next, we're moving from claiming to accepting. Accepting is nothing in the world like giving up. Giving up is a Kingdom 1 kind of thing. Accepting is with all the equanimity and peace in the world. You say, oh, this is what is. And you then deal with what is, with the grace, the love, and the beauty of Kingdom 3. So, if you are finding yourself sometimes moving from concentration, controlling, and claiming to ease, trusting, and accepting, you are in the transition for Kingdom 3. So right now in this community, what's up for us right now, among other things, is our Joyful Giving program, which is Joyful Living, Joyful Giving. And money is one of those things that applies exactly to all of these kingdoms. So I like to bring money in because it seems to a lot of people like it's a whole separate thing. And it doesn't respond to spiritual practice because, you know, you have addition and stuff in your checkbook. And a number is a number. You know, 5 is 5, period, end of story. But it's not the case. It absolutely responds to spiritual practice. So when we look at this is what it looks like. Concerning money, we move from goal setting, winning, and competing. All of those are a part of Kingdom 2 and are absolutely operative when we're in those set of rules. We move from goal setting, winning, and competing to faith, generosity, and sufficiency. And it's kind of a thing that just happens. I would love to be able to drag all of us into Kingdom 3 about this, but I'm telling you, if you keep up with your spiritual practice, we will all get there. And part of the spiritual practice is to practice that generosity and lean into it. If you feel like being generous, then absolutely write another 0 on your commitment card. Because what we're doing when we lean in with that spiritual practice of generosity is that we are leaning into the absolute promise that all the Father has is mine and yours. All the Father has is mine and yours. And you will have every single thing you need for every breath you take. Every moment that you're here, you will have absolutely what you require to live your life's purpose. That is sufficiency. You have absolutely everything you require to live your life's purpose. And I hold that for each one of us. So here's the map, or there was the map. You know, you can keep that grid in your mind. That if you're troubled now, get a treatment from one of the practitioners so that you can move more gracefully into being amazed. The conclusion here is we've been actually talking about a spiritual principle that I alluded to at the very beginning of the talk. The spiritual principle that we're working with today is this: spiritual practice invites transformation. Are we okay back there? Okay. Let's just know. Okay, God's surrounding right there. We got, okay. Everything looks fine. Spiritual practice invites transformation. Every time you say a prayer, read a spiritual book, give with generosity, you are inviting your own transformation, and that means moving into amazement in whatever kingdom that you're in. And the going deeper today is this: being troubled always activates my trust. So before I do the inner work, I'd like to just have you focus once again on the altar. We actually have 2 amazing artists that have their work exemplified here. Carine, is that your work behind the Buddha? So this is Carine's painting behind the Buddha, and this is Franz's painting of the creative process and Ernest Holmes. I would love it if you would spend some time at the altar and let the beauty of all of this wash over you, because this is part of Kingdom 3, is living in beauty all the time. And then if you could just add a blessing to the work of both of these artists, because what happens with artists is that they bring beauty into the world that never ever existed before them. So we thank you, Franz, and bless your beautiful meditative painting of Ernest Holmes, and we bless you, Carine, in your beautiful painting of flowers and water and beautiful swirly things. And so, because Georgia thinks you don't get enough Bible, the very, very perfect conclusion, I think, today for the inner work that exemplifies the trust of moving into places that we do not understand is the 23rd Psalm. And if you learned this as a little child, say it with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And so just taking that meaning in and knowing that whether it is the valley of the shadow of death, whether it is a foreclosure, whether it is a fight with someone that we love, all of those troubling situations open into amazement as we trust in God. All of the challenges of our life smooth into harmony as we trust in God. All of the confusion that befalls us for any reason vanishes as we trust in the one who loves us, the one who created us, the one who never leaves us. Blessed be.